Operation Bughouse should have been called Operation Madhouse. Everything went wrong. It had been planned as an all-out move to bring the enemy to their knees, occupy the capital and the key points of their home planet, and end the war. Instead, it damn near lost us the war. I'm not criticizing General Deans. I don't know whether it's true that he demanded more troops and more support and allowed himself to be overruled by Sky Marshal-in-Chief, or not, nor was it any of my business. Furthermore, I doubt if some of the smart second-guessers know all the facts. What I do know is that the general dropped with us and commanded us on the ground, and when the situation became impossible, he personally led the diversionary attack that allowed quite a few of us, including me, to be retrieved, and in so doing bought his farm. He's radioactive debris on Klendathu, and it's much too late to court-martial him, so why talk about it? I do have one comment to make to any armchair strategist who's never made a drop. Yes, I agree that the Bugs planet possibly could have been plastered with H-bombs until it was surfaced with radioactive glass, but would that have won the war? The Bugs are not like us. The pseudo-arachnids aren't even like spiders. They're arthropods, who happen to look like a madman's conception of a giant intelligent spider, but their organization, psychological and economic, is more like that of ants and termites. They're communal entities, the ultimate dictatorship of the hive. Blasting the surface of their planet would have killed soldiers and workers. It would not have killed the braincast and the queens. I doubt if anyone can be certain that even a direct hit with a burrowing H-rocket would kill a queen. We don't know how far down they are, nor am I anxious to find out. None of those boys who went down those holes came up again. So suppose we did ruin the productive surface of Klendathu. They still would have had ships and colonies and other planets, same as we have, and their HQ is still intact. So, unless they surrender, the war isn't over. We didn't have Nova bombs at the time. We couldn't crack Klendathu open. If they absorbed the punishment and didn't surrender, the war was still on. If they can surrender. Their soldiers can't. Their workers can't fight, and you can waste a lot of time and ammo shooting up workers who wouldn't say boo, and their soldier caste can't surrender. But don't make the mistake of thinking that the Bugs are just stupid insects because they look the way they do and don't know how to surrender. The warriors are smart, skilled, and aggressive. Smarter than you are, by the only universal rule: if the bug shoots first. You can burn off 1 leg, 2 legs, 3 legs, and he just keeps on coming. Burn off 4 on one side and he topples over, but keeps on shooting. You have to spot the nerve case and get it, whereupon he will trot right past you, shooting at nothing, until he crashes into a wall or something. The drop was shambles from the start. 50 ships were in our piece of it, and they were supposed to come out of Cherenkov Drive and into Reaction Drive so perfectly coordinated that they could hit orbit and drop us in formation where we were supposed to hit without even making one planet circuit to dress up their own formation. I suppose this is difficult. Shucks, I know it is. But when it slips, it leaves the MI holding the sack. We were lucky at that, because of the Valley Forge and every Navy file in her bought it before we could ever hit the ground. In that tight, fast formation, 4.7 miles a second orbital speed is not a stroll, she collided with the Ypres and both ships were destroyed. We were lucky to get out of her tubes. Those of us who did get out, for she was firing capsules as she was rammed. But I wasn't aware of it. I was inside my cocoon, headed for the ground. I suppose our company commander knew that the ship had been lost, and half his wildcats with it, since he was out first, and would know when he suddenly lost touch over the command circuit with the ship's captain. But there's no way to ask him, because he wasn't retrieved. All I ever had was a gradually dawning realization that things were a mess. The next 18 hours were a nightmare. I shan't tell much about it because I don't remember much, just snatches, stop-motion scenes of horror. I've never liked spiders, poisonous or otherwise. A common house spider in my bed can give me the creeps. Tarantulas are simply unthinkable, and I can't eat lobster, crab, or anything like that. When I got my first sight of a bug, my mind jumped right out of my skull and I started to yammer. It was seconds later I realized I'd killed it and I could stop shooting. I suppose it was a worker. I doubt if I was in any shape to tackle a warrior and win. But at that, I was in better shape than the Canine Corps. They were to be dropped, if the drop had gone perfectly, on the periphery of our entire target, and the Neo-Dogs were supposed to range outward and provide tactical intelligence to interdiction squads, whose business it was to secure the periphery. The Calebs, the canines, they aren't armed, of course, other than their teeth. A neo-dog is supposed to hear, see, smell, and tell his partner what he finds by radio. And all he carries is a radio and a destruction bomb. And he and his partner either can blow up the dog in case of, bad wounds or capture. Those poor dogs didn't wait to be captured. Apparently most of them suicided as soon as they made contact. They felt the way I do about bugs, only worse. They have neo-dogs now that are indoctrinated from puppyhood to observe and evade without blowing their tops at the mere sight or smell of a bug. These weren't. But that wasn't all that went wrong. Just name it. It was fouled up. I didn't know what was going on, of course. I just stuck close behind Dutch, trying to shoot or flame anything that moved, dropping a grenade down a hole when I ever saw one. Presently I got so I could kill a bug without wasting ammo or juice, although I did not learn to distinguish between those that were harmless and those that were not. Only about 1 in 50 is a warrior, but he makes up for the other 49. Their personal weapons aren't as heavy as ours, but they are lethal just the same. They've got a beam that'll penetrate armor and slice flesh like cutting a hard-boiled egg, and they cooperate even better than we do, because the brain that's doing the heavy thinking for a squad isn't where you can reach it. It's down one of the holes. Dutch and I stayed lucky for quite a long time, milling around over an area about a mile square, corking up holes with bombs, killing what we found above the surface, saving our jets much as possible for emergencies. The idea was to secure the entire target and allow the reinforcements and the heavy stuff to come down without important opposition. This was not a raid. This was a battle to establish a beachhead, stand on it, hold it, and enable fresh troops and heavies to capture or pacify the entire planet. Only we didn't. Our own section was doing all right. It was in the wrong pew and out of touch with the other section. The platoon leader and the sergeant were dead and we never reformed. But we had staked out a claim, our special weapons squad had set up a strong point, and we were ready to turn our real estate over to fresh troops as soon as they showed up. Only they didn't. They dropped in where we should have dropped, found unfriendly natives, and had their own troubles. We never saw them, so we stayed where we were, soaking up casualties from time to time and passing them out ourselves as opportunity offered, while we ran low on ammo and jump juice and power to keep the suits moving. This seemed to go on for a couple of 1,000 years. Dutch and I were zipping along close to a wall, headed for our special weapons squad in answer to a yell for help, when the ground suddenly opened in front of Dutch, a bug popped out, and Dutch went down. I flamed the bug and tossed a grenade and the hole closed up, and then I turned to see what happened to Dutch. He was down, but he didn't look hurt. A platoon sergeant can monitor the physicals on every man in his platoon, sort out the dead from those who merely can't make it unassisted, must be picked up. But you can do the same thing, manually, from switches right on the belt of a man's suit. Dutch didn't answer when I called him. His body temperature had read 99 degrees. His respiration, heartbeat, and brainwaves read 0, which looked bad, but maybe his suit was dead rather than himself. Or so I told myself, forgetting that the temperature indicator would give no reading if the suit were dead rather than the man. Anyhow, I grabbed the can opener wrench from my own belt and started to take him out of his suit, while trying to watch all around me. Then I heard an all-hands call in my helmet that I never want to hear again. Sauve que pu! Home! Home! Pick up and home! Any beacon you can hear! 6 minutes! All hands save yourselves! Pick up your mates! Home on any beacon! Sauve que... I hurried. His head came off as I tried to drag him out of his suit, so I dropped him and got out of there. On a later drop, I would have had sense enough to salvage his ammo, but I was far too sluggy to think. I simply bounced away from there and tried to rendezvous with the strong point we'd been heading for. It was already evacuated, and I felt lost and deserted. Then I heard recall. Not the recall it should have been Yankee Doodle if it had been from the Valley Forge, but Sugarbush, a tune I didn't know. No matter, it was a beacon. I headed for it, using the last of my jump juice lavishly. Got aboard just as they were about to button up, and shortly thereafter was in the Vortrek, in such a state of shock that I couldn't remember my serial number.